Two ships, one unsinkable, one luxurious. Both ended in chaos, but only one captain abandoned his passengers, while the other went down with his ship. Over a century apart, two ocean liners met a similar fate. The Titanic, the most infamous maritime disaster in history, sank on her maiden voyage in 1912, claiming over 2,500 lives in the icy waters of the North Atlantic. A century later, in 2012, the Costa Concordia, a modern cruise liner, capsized off the coast of Italy after a shocking navigational blunder, killing 32. Despite the vast differences in time, technology, and circumstance, both disasters raise uncomfortable questions about arrogance, accountability, and human error. This isn't just a comparison of ships and statistics. This is a story of two tragedies. And the haunting question, which was worse? And why did history treat them so differently? The Titanic was the pride of the White Star Line, a ship so grand, so technologically advanced for its time, that it was widely deemed unsinkable. Launched on April 10, 1912, Titanic departed from Southampton, England, bound for New York City. On board were more than 2,200 souls, a mix of the world's wealthiest elite and struggling immigrants chasing the American dream. Captain Edward Smith, a seasoned mariner nearing retirement, was at the helm. The Titanic, stretching 882 feet long, was the largest ship ever built. Its 16 watertight compartments were believed to keep it afloat under virtually any condition. But beneath this veil of confidence lay fatal flaws. Only 20 lifeboats, enough for just over half of those aboard. No binoculars in the crow's nest. A belief so firm in the ship's invincibility that warnings were ignored. On the night of April 14, 1912, the air was still, the sea unnaturally calm. Multiple ice warnings had been received, but the Titanic steamed ahead at 22 knots, nearly full speed. At 11:40 p.m., Lookout Frederick Fleet spotted a dark mass. Iceberg right ahead. The order to turn was given, but it came too late. The starboard side of the Titanic scraped the iceberg. The gash was not one large tear, but a series of punctures below the waterline. 5 compartments flooded. The ship was doomed. What followed was a lesson in chaos and hubris. Lifeboats were launched half full. Many passengers, especially in third class, were left behind. There was no public address system, no structured evacuation. Benjamin Guggenheim, a wealthy industrialist, put on his finest evening wear and said calmly, "We've dressed up in our best and are prepared to go down like gentlemen." Meanwhile, the band played. Women and children were prioritized, but inconsistently. At 2:20 a.m., April 15th, the Titanic broke in two and sank beneath the Atlantic. 1,503 people died, many from hypothermia in the 28-degree water. Captain Smith went down with the ship. So did the ship's designer, Thomas Andrews. Exactly 100 years later, in 2012, the Costa Concordia set sail on a week-long cruise of the Mediterranean. She was a floating city, carrying over 4,200 people, including 3,200 passengers and $1,000 crew. On January 13th, the ship sailed dangerously close to the island of Giglio, Italy, just 500 feet from shore, for what Captain Francesco Schettino called a salute to impress guests and locals. At 9:45 p.m., disaster struck. The ship struck a submerged rock, tearing a 174-foot gash along its hull. Water began flooding in. The engine room was lost. The power failed. Lights went out. Panic erupted, but no immediate order to abandon ship was given. Captain Schettino hesitated for over an hour before issuing an evacuation. Passengers stumbled through darkened hallways, tilting decks, and rising water. Some crew members were unaware of the severity of the damage. Just after midnight, the ship listed so badly that lifeboat deployment became impossible on one side. By morning, 32 people were dead, including an elderly couple who gave up there. lifeboat seat to children, and a violinist who returned to help others. But what shocked the world most was the captain. Schettino abandoned ship before all passengers were rescued. A now infamous recording between him and Coast Guard officer Gregorio De Falco captured the moment. De Falco: "Get back on board, damn it." Schettino: "Do you realize it is dark here and we can't see anything?" De Falco: "You've abandoned ship. Now I'm giving the orders. Get back on board. Is that clear?" Schettino never returned. He was later tried and convicted of multiple charges, including manslaughter, abandoning ship, and causing a maritime disaster. He was sentenced to 16 years in prison. Titanic: 1,503 dead out of 2,224. Costa Concordia: 32 dead out of 4,229 in pure numbers. Titanic was deadlier, by far, but context matters. Titanic's tragedy unfolded in an era with no GPS, no radar, limited lifeboats, and no standardized safety drills. The Costa Concordia, by contrast, was equipped with modern navigation systems, radar, and communications. And yet, human error brought her down. Schettino ignored safety protocols, deviated from course, and failed to order evacuation swiftly. Titanic's collision was largely due to overconfidence and speed, but Captain Smith never fled. He died with his ship. Titanic became legend. Books, films, memorials. It was seen as a symbol of technological arrogance and the fragility of human hubris. The world grieved the Titanic as a tragedy of fate. Costa Concordia? It was scandalous. Tabloid fodder. The image of Schettino tripping into a lifeboat while passengers still scrambled for survival defined the event. One was seen as noble and doomed. The other, avoidable and shameful. The Titanic disaster revolutionized maritime law. Ships were now required to carry enough lifeboats for everyone. Continuous radio monitoring became mandatory. The International Ice Patrol was established to track icebergs. Costa Concordia led to regulatory changes too, but more focused on enforcement, mandatory safety drills before departure, tighter restrictions on unauthorized deviations from route, improved training and emergency procedures. But the biggest change? Public awareness. Cruise passengers began questioning their safety, and for the first time in a century, the ghost of Titanic felt eerily close. So which was the greater tragedy? In terms of lives lost, Titanic. In terms of failure of leadership, Costa Concordia. In terms of lessons learned, both. Titanic was a monument to human arrogance in the face of nature. Costa Concordia was a reminder that even in the age of GPS and global communication, negligence can still kill. Both ships now rest. One in the dark depths of the Atlantic, the other dismantled and scrapped on Italian shores. But their legacies remain, not just in steel and wreckage, but in law, memory, and the haunting knowledge that the unthinkable can happen again. Steel may rust and wood may rot, but the ghosts of the sea never forget. Thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe my channel.